For today's panel, we have Samantha Kajolik, who is my former student, John Jay alum, and she's the operational support technician at the FBI. We actually have a bunch of John Jay alum joining us today, and they'll talk a little bit more about that when they introduce themselves. We have Natalia Peters, special agent at the FBI. Marta Spilovsky, an intelligence analyst at the FBI, and Priscilla Kwao, a staff operations specialist in the FBI. So we're hoping this is going to feel really casual. Get your typing fingers ready because it's such a big group. We're going to focus the conversation from you, mostly from chat. So feedback that you want to share, thoughts that you have, but especially questions that you want to have answered, make sure you put them in chat. And I thank my first year programs assistant, Claudia Hogin, the real one, for helping me manage the chat today. So without further ado, help me give the panelists a really warm Zoom welcome in chat, and I'm going to ask them to introduce themselves. Let's start with Sam.
Hi, everyone. My name is Samantha Kosilik, but as Nancy referred to me, Sam, that is the name I do prefer. It's so nice that you all joined us here today. I'm so excited. This is my second exploration event with first year success programs. If you hear my dogs in the back, I'm so sorry. Max, stop doing that. So I am a John Jay alum from 2019. I was in the BA/MA program for forensic psychology. I completed a thesis, and I also completed the advanced certificate in victimology studies, which was actually a new program while I was a student at John Jay. While a student, I worked with Nancy as a peer success coach in SASP. And she was also one of my professors. So it was a blessing to have her in both of those roles. And while a peer success coach, I actually used a lot of the experiences working at SASP to apply to the FBI Honors Internship, which I successfully got in the summer of 2017. And that's where I stayed until I graduated in 2019. And then I fully onboarded into the operational support technician role in the New York office, first working with counterterrorism, and then currently working with the investigative operations analysis unit. I am currently awaiting my Quantico class to become a staff operations specialist like my colleague Priscilla, which she can tell you a little bit more about her role as an SOS, but that's me. So thank you guys for joining.
Thank you, Sam. Let's give it up for Sam in the chat, folks. Let's go. All right, next up, Natalia, will you tell us a little bit more about yourself?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Natalia Peters, special agent in the FBI in the New York office. I've been in the Bureau for about 13 years. Almost 7 of which were as a special agent, and I actually started out as a staff operations specialist. Priscilla will talk to you more about. So I entered the Bureau in 2008 as a staff operations specialist, worked in national security for about 7 years, and then switched over to the special agent position. Continued to work national security. So I worked both counterterrorism and counterintelligence. And then recently, in the last couple of months, I became the recruiter for the New York office. So I'm in a new position now as a special agent recruiter. So very happy to be here. I have a bachelor's in political science from Regis College in Boston, and a master's in national security and public safety from the University of New Haven. So not a John Jay alum, but similar background. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, Natalia. You said recruiter, and I felt the collective energy of the room go, yes. All right, let's give it up for Natalia. Okay, up next, Marta, will you tell us more about yourself?
Sure. I'm a John Jay alumni. I can't remember when I graduated. I think it was about 10 years ago. It's been so long ago, 2009, I think. Oh, more than 10. So I got my undergrad from Boston University. Go Boston! I got it in physics, and then I moved on to become a teacher for a little bit. I was teaching New York City High School, and I thought the FBI would be a safer choice than New York City High School. So I went to John Jay, got my master's in forensics, and I wanted to actually work at the lab. But then I realized I would be pipetting all day long, and I didn't want to do that. So I joined the intelligence analyst role. And for those who don't know what IAs do, intelligent analysts, we pretty much just analyze information, evaluate intel that comes in that the agents collect, and then we let the people know what goes on in the world. And I work in counterterrorism. I also worked in weapons of mass destruction, and I did a little bit of criminal as well.
Thank you so much, Marta. Such an interesting journey you've had to right now.
Yes.
look at all the love that's coming in from the chat. Let's give it up for Marta. And Priscilla, will you tell us a little bit more about yourself?
Yes, I am Priscilla Quao. Guys, I'm sorry I can't see you facially. I'm over the phone because I had to go to a meeting downtown in Brooklyn to meet with some assistant U.S. attorneys. So my apologies for not being facially there, but I hope my voice can radiate and give you all the information and inquiries and fulfill your questions of what you need. So yes, I graduated from John Jay many, many years ago. I'm not going to lie, I don't recall, but it was in the 90s. So let's just leave that there. So I graduated with my BA in forensic psychology, and then I was like, I still wanted to continue and learn more because I took a couple of classes in forensic science and I loved it. So I did that and got my bachelor's of science in forensic science. I did continue on through and also got my bachelor's of science in forensic science. I got my master's in forensic science, all at John Jay. So I am a powerful John Jay alumni. I love it. Would never deny it. Very proud. After that, I actually, in the interim, I was working at the Office of the Chief Medical Examiner's office. I did that for a little over 7.5 years. I actually worked and helped assisted with doing forensic identification during 9/11, many other cases, and my tenure there at the medical examiner's office in the city. After a while, that burnt me out, and I was like, okay, I wanted something different and new, and I always told myself, my younger self, I'm just going to throw that out there. That photo you see is still me. My younger self that I was one day going to join the FBI. I said, let me throw in my resume, my paperwork, and let me see what happens. And lo and behold, I'm here. I've been with the FBI for a little over 11 years. I worked with Marta in our previous collection days in the bureau. Then we moved on to separate things. I went and continued on my life in the criminal side of the house with the FBI, where I currently am working. So I've worked organized crime on so many levels and aspects. And yes, being a staff operational analyst, what they now changed their name to tactical analysts, but I call us tactical assassins because we tackle and, make everything happen in the background for the agents. So if you have any questions, I can't wait to answer them.
Priscilla, thank you. Thanks for that energy. Let's give it up for Priscilla, everyone. Yes, all that love in chat. Okay, so we're ready to get down to what it is that you all came for. So I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to start with a question that most of you have asked in different ways. And during that time, go ahead and drop into chat any questions that you would really want to have answered, either now or throughout this event. If I see a lull in the questions, I'm just going to go back to my pretty enormous pool of questions at this point for the FBI folks. But I just want to make sure that since you're here, I want to prioritize the questions that you have on your mind and then go from there. Sound good? All right. So starting off, it's no secret that pursuing a career in the FBI is really competitive. I think it's pretty clear to students that it takes a lot of work to get there, but what the work is to get there seems to be a little bit unclear now. So hoping that some panelists could share with us, what are some of the crucial things that you think students in undergrad need to be doing now in order to potentially get a job in the FBI once they graduate? And I'll take anyone for this. Yes, Marta.
I would say start with internships. I think internship, from what I've been on a couple review hiring boards, and one thing that I noticed is people don't have any experience when they want to get a job. So I would try to get as many internships as you can. It doesn't matter like where it is, who it's with, but that's what's going to distinguish you from the rest of the crowd.
Thank you so much, Marta. Anyone else want to chime in?
I'll chime in. So to bounce off of Marta, as she said, you don't have to have a particular internship. So what does that mean? A lot of people look at the FBI and they're like, oh, I need a master's or a bachelor's in criminal justice, and I have to work with NYPD. I have to work with, all of these law enforcement agencies. And while we do have a lot of applicants, and we never turn away applicants who have that background, we love to see the diversity. So we never turn away a particular major. I know that I was running a background check for someone who was applying to be an agent who had an arts degree, like she was in theater. One of my colleagues actually worked in theater. So there's no one particular path that you can go. This could either be a start of your career, so kind of like me, coming right out of college, or it could be a second career, like Marta. She was a teacher, and then she came here. Or Priscilla, she worked with the medical examiner, and then she came here. So there's not just one path. We don't look for particular majors. We don't look for particular backgrounds unless the job posting that you're looking for is like super specific, like if you wanted to work in a lab or something like that. But definitely get yourself a wide array of experiences. And then something that helped me get into the internship is I had research experience, and I worked with a professor at John Jay. And that research experience stood out among some of the other people that I was competing with across the country. So if you're into research and you like writing, then that'll be a huge plus for you.
Thank you, Sam. So based on the first two panelists, I think the message is simply going to classes, getting your degree, and graduating is not enough, right? It's a matter of what is it in between that's going to make you stand out. I'm actually going to throw this over to Natalia, since your new role is in recruitment. Maybe you can tell us a little bit more about what a recruiter does and give us your perspective on what you're looking for.
Okay, so I've only been in the position for a couple of months, but so basically what we do is during the August, September timeframe, we do a lot of talks at the colleges and universities because that's when our student programs open up. So our honors internship application is open then, and also our collegiate hiring initiative. And those are two student opportunities that we have. Right now, both of those programs are closed out for the year. We do this because it takes, once we get those applicants in, it takes a while for them to get processed and do the background. Everybody that works at the FBI has to have a top secret clearance. So from everybody that's higher up to the lowest level employee, everybody needs a top secret clearance. So in order to obtain that clearance, you have to get a background, you have to pass the polygraph, you have to pass all the drug testing, and that takes time. It takes anywhere from a year to sometimes 2 years, but on average, it's between 9 and 16 months. That's what we're seeing right now. From the time you hit submit on the application to the time you are placed in the job in your actual seat. So that's why we open up the student programs in the fall of the prior year for the next year's during the summer for the interns. And for the collegiate hiring, it's basically an entry-level program. So we hire recent grads for our entry-level positions, which we can go into a little bit later. But basically, so for the operational support analysts, the electronics technician, data science, computer scientist, data specialists, those kinds of positions are entry level, and it's a good way for you to get your foot into the door of the FBI, get a couple years, experience, and then move on to, if you want, a special agent position or an intelligence position. It kind of gets you your foot in the door. So that's why. But both of those, fortunately, both of those programs are closed out for the season for the next year.
Thank you, Natalia. And if you could elaborate a little bit more on maybe just the number of applications you get for the internship. So just for undergrad, while they're undergrad, number that you get, and then really what you're looking for as you distinguish between someone who is ultimately going to get the internship and many folks who will not.
So I don't have the numbers for this year, but it's a lot. So because it used to be open for all undergrads. Right now, we are only taking juniors and seniors because it's so competitive and we get so many applications, and unfortunately, we can't take everybody. And we have to prioritize just for the juniors and seniors, or the seniors that are going to be juniors that are going to be seniors for the next year. So the honors internship is only for continuing students. So even if you are a senior, but you're going into grad school the following year, as long as you're a full-time student, you can still apply for the internship. Super competitive. It's a 10-week paid program in the summer. And it's open. All of our 56 field offices, including our headquarters, have positions available. So you can work side by side in a squad, investigating crimes, or you can be, in our headquarters position in like a training unit. So it really depends. And it's really depending on the needs of the Bureau and where we need those intern bodies to be placed.
Thank you.
So, yeah, and we take a variety of, you don't need to have, a criminal justice background. Yes, I mean, it's helpful to kind of get the nuances, but we definitely like a well-rounded applicant. So anybody, in whichever degree, but as long as you can apply what you're doing, that degree to what you're currently doing. So if you have that professional experience, if you're volunteering for different activities, if you have a lot of extracurriculars, we love that. We like, and we can go into resumes a little bit later, but we like the federal format resume, the federal resume format, instead of, the one pager where usual corporate likes the one pager to kind of everything on one page. We like to see everything. We like you to go into detail. So we like a multiple page resumes to see exactly what you've been doing with your degree and what you have in your background. It makes us assess you better.
Thank you so much, Natalia. I mean, I think it makes so much sense to limit this to juniors and seniors, because the first years and the sophomores now have a chance to build that resume before they even get to apply. So excellent, excellent. Thank you. Priscilla, is there anything else you want to add to that? What would make a candidate most marketable, since everyone in this room
Honestly,
is yearning to be in the program?
Everything that they've stated has been on point. Guys, if you're in your freshman and your sophomore year, prepare yourself. Do get internships that are, aligned with what you want to do, so that it prepares you for your junior, senior year when you want to apply with the Bureau or with any other federal government agency that has those opportunities out there for you. It's a great way to get acclimated into the system, learn what we do on various squads, but also get a better grasp at, what your future goals are with the Bureau or any other federal government agency. So these ladies have provided a wealth of information. Definitely take their information and run with it.
Thank you so much, Priscilla. I think that answered a lot of follow-up questions to this maximizing their time and making themselves most marketable. I'm looking at the chat now. I'm trying to see where I can find some patterns of what questions you want me to ask. And I think I'm going to follow this up with students are interested in knowing what they can do in the FBI if they have a particular major. But panelists have already said, you can come into the FBI with really any major as long as you have a wealth of experience and you're marketable in other ways. But panelists, maybe you can tell us what would you suggest for students who aren't a particular degree? So I'm seeing forensic psychology, I'm seeing forensic science, in criminal justice coming up a lot in chat. How would you advise that these students then figure out what role would be the most appropriate for them in the FBI, or what they might be most suited for?
Sure. So I could kick us off. So for all of my forensic psych folks, I have a special place in my heart because that's where I lie. Okay, I know that not everyone who's interested in the FBI wants to be law enforcement, which is totally fine because we have a wealth of positions, and we have professional support staff, intel, our lab, and we definitely need people with particular expertise to fill all of these roles. So let's take forensic psychology, for example. Some of the things that we offer is the victim specialist position, although very specific criteria is needed to fill that. So just as a background, victim specialist, you would be providing direct assistance to victims of violent crime and sometimes even terrorism acts. You engage in crisis intervention and you provide public education on victim issues. Another particular role for anyone with a psychology or counseling background would be the employee assistance counselor. And they provide mental and occupational health assistance for the FBI workforce. So victim specialist is for outside people, employee assistance counselor is for our inside people. And then of course, we also have what I think everyone knows and loves, the BAU, the Behavioral Analysis Unit. Although again, that takes a little bit more expertise. So for example, to join the BAU as a support staff professional, such as an intelligence research specialist or a crime specialist or analyst, you would need a minimum of a bachelor's degree, a very notable research background, which is why I mentioned to engage in any research if you have the opportunity. And then in some cases, law enforcement experience. To be an agent in the BAU, that requires you to first serve at least 3 years as a general special agent prior to applying. And typically special agents in the BAU will serve between 7 and 15 years before transferring to that specialized unit. So that's a little bit of like the psych background and what's available for psychology. And then of course, we also have collateral duties, which I love talking about because recruitment is one of my collateral duties. Another one of mine is TOC, so that's the Tactical Operations Command. And I serve as an analyst working with our SWAT team. So let's say that you are in an operational support technician role and you're thinking to yourself, well, I'm not using my degree in forensic science, let's say. We have collateral duties that would be more aligned with some of the skill sets that you may have. So for example, and I think one of our panelists, or maybe two, is on our ERT team, which is our evidence response team. And for that team, you definitely need expertise in forensic science or photography or having those special skill sets to help that team collect the evidence, analyze it, store it, etc. So if there's no particular position that you can get into first and foremost when you get in the Bureau, my recommendation is always get your foot in the door, and then you can absolutely branch out to different positions. And then of course, engage in collateral duties. And then I'll leave off before branching it off to my other panelists by saying I was working with a special agent in headquarters this past summer who said the FBI is the only place where you can have 5 or 6 careers within your one career. So there's always opportunity. And I open it up to the other panelists to talk a little bit more about like their collaterals and yeah, answering the question.
Thank you so much.
This is Priscilla, and
Yes, Priscilla, go ahead.
So I also took on a collateral duty last year, and currently in my collateral duty, I'm a part of the emergency response team unit. And with that unit, we go out on crime scenes, whether it's a bombing. Marta as well is on the unit, is on the team as well. And so basically, as was mentioned, we do evidence collection. We do a variety of different things that happen in lieu of whatever is taking place, whether it's in the city, wherever within the 5 boroughs, even outside of the 5 boroughs in like Long Island, anything. We are a part of this team, and we get sent out to help out with searches, digs, those types of things. And that's a fun part of being as a professional staff, to do something that I used to do in my former career, to, you know, help out, because you still stay attuned with, you know, the techniques of what you learned, but you also learn more because there's so many aspects in being a part of ERT. You have people who are really good with photography, you have people who are great sketchers, and you need all these people to basically rebuild what the crime scene is, because once you present it to, you know, a jury, it gives them a visual description of how things happened, how things took place, but it also provides, everyone an opportunity, whether they are, they like forensic science and they've never done it, but gives them an opportunity to use their other skills, whether they're good at drawing. Being a sketcher and knowing how to sketch a scene is always very important, because you're giving a complete scale of how something is, an area and a location. So these other activities that we get to do as our collateral duty always helps. And it's good to be like a good team player, because that also helps you build and move around, because you're working with agents, you're working with photographers, you're working with attorneys, you're working with a wide scope of individuals. So it's a good way for you to see where you want to go and how you want to go about moving on in your career.
Thank you so much, Priscilla. Anybody else want to add?
A lot of people are also asking about international travel, I see, and traveling the world. So I just want to chime in on that. Being part of the evidence response team, we do travel the world. The New York office actually covers Africa and Europe, Virgin Islands. So you do get to travel depending on where you are in the Bureau. So I also want to chime in on like other opportunities. A lot of people, when they think of FBI, they think special agent. You can do many other things too, like the lab. You can be a chemist, you can be a biologist. We have linguists. So if you speak multiple languages, I see a question of multiple languages. That is definitely a big thing to have, and it helps you definitely in the Bureau. So they're not all special agents that branch into these different jobs. Like all of these jobs are independent of each other. So you can apply to be a linguist, you can apply to be a chemist, you can apply to be a gun examiner. So it all really depends on what you want to be. You don't have to be a special agent if you don't want to. You can definitely be a special agent, that's what you want. But you can definitely jump from one job to the next. Like some people worked in a lab, they were chemists, they didn't want to do chemistry anymore, and they became a special agent. So you can definitely move around. So that's one thing about the Bureau. You definitely have a lot of diversity in it.
Thank you so much, Marta. Natalia, did you want to add on, or should we move on?
I have a collateral duty as well. I'm on the crisis negotiation team. So we're basically crisis negotiators. And we go out with SWAT on their call outs for their arrests or search warrants. And basically, if they encounter a barricaded subject, the crisis negotiators come in and try to lure the subject out by a negotiation strategy. So if you have, psychology, social work background, talking to people, we get a ton of training for that. But yeah, we deal with, kidnappings as well, domestically and overseas. If a U.S. person is kidnapped, we would be involved in the negotiation as well.
Thank you, Natalia. Okay, I have been adding your questions in chat into my question pool, and I'm seeing that many folks are interested in what would make someone ineligible to be in the FBI. So if folks can talk a little bit about that. There were some things about dual citizenship. Some folks are interested in tattoos, and maybe anything else that you can think of that would make someone potentially ineligible.
We have plenty of agents with tattoos, so don't worry about that tattoos, depending on what they are of. But if you're in a tattoo on your face, you might want to reconsider that. But we definitely have agents with tattoos. I can actually speak to dual citizenship because I did have dual citizenship. So you will have to give it up. So you won't be able to fly to Europe on your European Union passport, which was a bummer. So I have to get back in line now. So dual citizenship does not eliminate you from getting the job, but you will have to give it up.
I just wanted to add on to what Marta's saying. I was also a dual citizen, Polish.
Oh, me too.
Yeah. And so you don't have to necessarily renounce your citizenship. You do have to sign a loyalty agreement with the FBI.
Oh, that made me
actually renouncing your citizenship is a super difficult thing to do. You actually have to write the country's president and tell them that you want to renounce. So they don't go as far as that. I think it depends on which other country you have dual citizenship with. So you would have to speak with the security folks on that when you're, in your background. But mostly you just have to sign a loyalty agreement saying that you're loyal to the US and to the FBI. So you have to give up if you do have a European Union passport or any other country that you're a citizen of passport, you would have to give that up to Security Division on your arrival to the Bureau.
Thank you, Natalia. Anybody else?
I'm sorry, I just want to clarify one more thing. You do have to be a US citizen to actually apply. That's one thing we get asked a lot of job career fairs. We have green card holders. Unfortunately, you do need an actual US citizenship to apply.
Yes, and all of actually the FBIjobs.gov website is a very good tool. If you go on it right now, all the eligibility requirements and the disqualifiers are on there as well. So you do have to be a US citizen. You have to adhere to our drug policy, all the background. So everything is kind of listed out there. I know the drug policy changes very frequently in the Bureau because we're trying to keep up with the times of, marijuana is being legalized in all the states. It is still illegal federally, but there is some changes in that on when you can have used marijuana in the past. So I suggest everybody goes to that website. All the latest, eligibility requirements and disqualifiers are listed on there.
Thank you, Natalia. I'm just going to throw out a few things that are coming up as follow-up. So folks will definitely check that website. But while we're here, things like rules related to hairstyles, makeup, nails, regardless of gender, things like credit checks, age limit. I'm sure there's an age limit. Maybe you can share that kind of thing.
Sure, I can jump in there. So like the tattoos, hair, we don't really care about any of that. Quantico does, however. So for the special agent position, if you go down to Quantico, you can't have any face tattoos. You have to be clean shaven. No long hair for the guys. I mean, yeah, there are some requirements, and you'll get that, in a packet before you end up going to Quantico. But that's specifically for the special agent position, because they need you to be presentable. So I only know, I don't necessarily know for the other positions if it's like that, because not everybody goes to Quantico in their position. I know the staff operations specialists do, intel analysts do, special agents. But yeah, we don't disqualify people on their appearance.
Just to go off of that, there's an age limit for some positions. At least see a lot of questions about that. So there's the only position that has actually the limit is the special agent position. We had people join that are 50 years old, 40 years old. So it all really depends on what position you're applying to. But when you go to apply for a position you're interested in, it will tell you if it does have an age limit or not.
And I just want to piggyback on Natalia. So as she said, there are standards when you do go to Quantico. And since I went down to Quantico for the operational support technician role, which is actually just 1 week, and it's more of an introductory session, like an onboarding kind of. There's no particular don't do this, don't do that. But please just keep in mind that you are still representing the FBI. So if you would not want to meet someone from the FBI who has a certain hairstyle, or if, just keep in mind, very professional. But of course, we don't discriminate based on that. It's just more of when you're going out into the public and you're meeting people, you are now also carrying that name with you. So just to keep in mind.
Yeah, obviously we have also religious and cultural exemptions too. For Quantico, if you have to have long hair, if you have to have a certain head covering or anything, obviously, we don't discriminate against that. But so for the special agent position, let's go back to that. The age requirement is 36. So that's kind of the cap. That's where you age out. But there are waivers for that. If you have prior military or law enforcement, you get a waiver, or if you are current on board, then that number changes. So it goes up a little bit instead of 36.
Thank you, Natalia. We're just going to follow up on the special agent piece of it, since there are so many students here who are interested in that. So we spent just a little bit of time on that. Do all training special agents need to go to Quantico? Maybe tell us a little bit more about the position, and anything else that you might want to share as advice for students who seem to be very, very eager to ultimately become special agents.
Yes, all special agent applicants have to go to Quantico. It's 21 weeks down in Quantico, Virginia. So about 5 months of training and both classroom, tactical, firearms, defensive tactics, you name it, we get it, interrogation, interview, training. So a lot of that is down at Quantico for 21 weeks. And then you get assigned depending on, so you rank your offices 1 to 56. You won't always get your first choice. A lot of people don't. Maybe in the top 5, you'll get it. But in my class, at least, I've known people that have gotten, their 56th choice. So you have to sign a mobility agreement where you agree to be transferred to anywhere in our jurisdiction, which is anywhere in the 56 field offices. So it depends on the field office where you go. New York is our flagship. It's the biggest office. We have a lot of opportunities for agents. They can work almost anything here because we do work everything in New York. If you get sent to a smaller offices, maybe like Omaha, you might not work as many, but they have a variety of cases as well. And one agent may work a different, not only get put in a criminal program, but work national security, criminal, cyber, because the smaller offices basically tend to do everything. They're not as focused, I guess, as the big offices where we have specific divisions, like the cyber division, the counterintelligence division, counterterrorism, criminal, where you are basically placed in a division as a new agent. So it just depends. There's so many opportunities. You are on probation. Once you get into the, as a new agent in the field officer, once you get off probation, then you can start applying for, the collateral duties that we spoke about earlier and any other opportunities as well. And you can definitely move around. You don't have to be, if you don't want to go to New York and you come to New York, you don't have to be here forever. You do your time and then you can transfer outside, into another state or to our headquarters.
Thank you, Natalia. Final question here about being a special agent. Do there need to be positions available in order to apply for them? Or generally each year you will have a pretty healthy number of positions available. So when, as my seniors are thinking about graduating, that this is the next step for them.
You're talking about the special agent application?
Special agent application.
So that should be open constantly. Before there was like an application season for special agents. I believe right now it is ongoing. So the special agent position, if you go on the website right now, you can apply for the special agent position right now.
Thank you, Natalia. Okay, we're going to move on to the day in the life of questions. So students are interested from all of you in hearing how many hours a week you work. Maybe give us a general rundown of what your week would look like and then what a day looks like for you.
I can start this off.
Sure.
A day in the life of an agent. No 2 days are the same. So it's definitely not a boring career. Every day is very different. It's not a 9 to 5 job for an agent. We are constantly, on duty. We have our phones. We can get called at midnight to go to JFK Airport to interview somebody. And I have gotten those calls, so I know. So we typically work 10 hours a day. That's our kind of pay hours, right? You have the 8 hours of base pay and then the 2 hours of availability pay. So each agent gets an extra 25% of availability pay just to make them available. But it's basically a 24-hour job. There is work-life balance. People have families. I have a family, so you make it work. If if you are running late, you can always stay late or come in early or come in on the weekends. But basically, you're going to make your time up because you're going to be called out for, if you have a collateral duty, you're going to be called out that night for a SWAT hit that you have to go on. So you're definitely going to make up that time. So it's very busy work. Not a typical day. If you're on a squad, one day you can be out of the office the whole day, interviewing witnesses, interviewing subjects, doing some surveillance in your car for a couple hours, watching a house. And then the next day you could be in the office on your computer, writing all those reports up because, it's not all just field work. We're not called the Bureau for nothing. So we definitely have a lot of paperwork as well. Once you interview those people, you have to write that interview up and, upload it to our databases. So yeah, every day is different. And, if unexpected things happen, like something blows up and you got to go in your car and you got to, go to the scene and work that, and work that case. So definitely not a typical day, I guess. Every day is different.
And then you carve out an hour and 15 minutes to talk to John Jay students sometimes in the middle of the day.
Sometimes.
So is it 40 hours of base and then 10 additional hours of that availability pay? Okay.
Right. I mean, on average, so they give you, so you're expected to work those 2 hours in addition to your 8 hours base pay, right? But you're technically on call for 24 hours.
Thank you, Natalia. I'm going to go to Priscilla next. Week in the life of your job and maybe a little bit of what a day looks like for you too.
Oh, okay. So, for example, today me and the case agent were working a case. We had to go down to Brooklyn to meet with the AUSAs. AUSAs are the U.S. Assistant District Attorneys who basically assist us in prosecuting our cases. So I had to create a PowerPoint presentation outlining and discussing what our case is about, why we're in the process of wanting to prosecute these individuals, and the end goal of how the case will go down the line and what our goal for the end result when it leads up to the arrest and what we want to do. Normally, my day is a full 8 days, sometimes longer than that, due to the fact that we have situations where we have to meet with an AUSA, or if there's a source that's coming to provide information about somebody who's doing criminal activity, the agent usually likes to have like an intel body there to get further information to gauge and ask questions. So we normally, sit there, think of like additional questions we may want to ask of this individual when it comes down to something that may help us with our case. And so the working relationship between intel and the agent relationship is very good because you build a bond, you work together, you see your case through from beginning to end. And at times you will be called in to testify as the intelligence analyst or the SOS because you are doing a variety of things. You're running phone information, you're presenting a photo collage of, all the subjects in the cases, and you have to explain in court under oath how you got to those results. How did you find out that this person, was associated with another person? And it gives a full scope of how the criminal activity is conducted. So a lot of times, agents are always providing me with like names and numbers and asking me to to obtain as much information as I can on the individual. So I have a large database bank where I can look up all types of information to then, present to the agent. And then from there, we sit down and discuss how we're going to, plan out our investigation and how we're going to make it work, avenues we're going to take, whether we're going to change something, add something. It varies from case to case. I work mainly criminal cases, so a lot of my cases are, fast-paced. There's something going on. My criminals tend to use social media, talk on the phones a lot, so I'm, heavily involved in phone activities, writing down information, showing who they're connected to, but also at the same time, I'm also, working with the agent hand in hand, gathering and building on the case. Some cases may take 6 months to a year. Other cases may take longer. So it's really, we're the backbone and helping out the agents. You're providing tactical information, which is like a heavy database. You're doing heavy database work, whether it's looking up Google searches, whatever. We're in the background providing all these informations. We're helping build this case because this case is going to be brought to the forefront to a jury of the jury of their peers, whether or not this person's going to get no time or get life. So, it's an interesting, job that we do. Everybody goes, oh, but you guys, don't really work much with the agents. Yes, we do, because we're sitting with them, we're working with them hand in hand. I'm working with the analysts too, but a lot of the researching, the digging, the deep dive falls on me because that's where my expertise is in researching, finding information, finding out who they're related to. Everything you can think of is really left on the intel side of the house on finding. So that makes it fun. If you really like research and understanding how things are, how things work, how crimes are committed, That's where the intel side of the house falls, because you're interacting not only with just your agents, but sometimes you may have to interact with other outside agencies, whether it's NYPD, whether it's American Express, whether it's the airport, the people who work in the airport. You're interacting with so many people. You're building relationships, but you're also building on a case, and that shows the progression of how the crime and the criminal activity, is being committed. So not only you're laying the foundation, but you're building that case alongside with the agent, and that makes it fun because you really get to learn the ins and outs of all kinds of crimes, but also how a case is built. Because a lot of times what we see on TV is one thing. Everything gets solved in 45 minutes. In the real world, it takes anywhere from 6 months to a couple of years to really build a really good, solid case. So, being an SOS, or our new name, a tactical analyst, I like to call us tactical assassins, because we're out there like going in, researching and kicking it off with so much information, and then finally we present everything at the end and we go to trial. It's great to sit there, testify, ask questions, answer questions for the jury, but also you have the defense that's going to come at you and saying, well, how did you get your information? You need to be able to explain how you gathered all your intel and what you did to bring it to that conclusion. So our day is busy. It's not a short day, and if God forbid if there was a casualty situation where all hands are on deck, it doesn't matter whether you're an analyst, an agent, a secretary. We're all pulled in, and we're all working an excessive amount of hours just to bring this situation into a small into a small picture, but also being able to bring the person to justice who committed that crime on a larger scale. So we work hard, we work long hours. Sometimes our hours are not as long, but we're always working. So it's fun. I love it. I've done it for 11 years. I wouldn't change it for the world.
Thank you, Priscilla, tactical assassin. Is the expectation for you also to be on call 24/7?
Yes, as for intel side of the house, we are on call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, because for the simple fact, if something were to happen, like a mass casualty or a mass incident, we would have to come in. So we get a notification from our supervisor. We're given 90 minutes to 2 hours to at least make it to the office to assist, because it's all hands on deck. So there are times in our lives where, yes, you're going to have to chip in and assist, because that is part of what you do as working for the FBI. Something happens, it doesn't happen to just, one person, it happens to all of us. So we all come in and pitch in. So yeah, and I don't mind it. I love it. Those are the days that you work nonstop, heavy hours, but the end result is what you're proud of. You got your subject, you're going to get them prosecuted, but as a whole, we all came together to, find our person. So there are times that we are on call 24 hours a day. There's times that you just have your regular 9 to 5, Monday through Fridays. If you have, you have a case coming up soon that's going to go to trial and you have to prep, you can work on weekends. It's dependent on your supervisor and your agent as well. So, your supervisor and the agent supervisor will come to an agreement saying, yes, you need to come in. They'll give you the hours and you can come in on the weekends and work it. So it's very flexible and very manageable, but it does happen. And I have a bureau phone, so I'm on call, and they can call me at any time. You'll have the attorneys call, the AUSAs call you to ask you about questions about things that you submitted, about phones, anything. So you are on call, but you have your phone, so it makes it easy to engage with them.
Thank you so much, Priscilla. Okay, Sam, can you take this question next?
Sure.
Week and day in the life of you in this job.
Sure. So I will start by saying I am so excited to be like Priscilla. I'm just counting down the days until I can assume that role for myself. So, you just made it sound like so awesome. Okay, so for the operational support technician, I'll talk a little generally first. That is your typical 9 to 5. A lot of the times you are either on a squad, embedded on a squad with special agents and sometimes intel folks, where you are doing records management and you're kind of helping the squad to continue doing their work. So you're there as their base support, not necessarily working cases, but helping them with administrative tasks to kind of minimize that burden off of them so they can focus more on their operations. Then, of course, you have certain units like the unit that I'm in right now, where we're a little bit more specialized. So I do not work with agents on the same squad, but I do work with them on particular projects. So my day-to-day is helping headquarters with background investigations for candidates seeking employment. That could be professional staff applicants, intel applicants, agent applicants, as well as US attorneys. So I will do a lot of database checks, kind of like Priscilla, but while she's actively working cases with perpetrators and subjects, I am working cases on maybe some of you who apply. And so that's kind of where I go. And then, of course, even though I mentioned 9 to 5, I work way beyond 9 to 5 some days because of these collateral duties. So with the TALK team working with SWAT, I had to report to a training up in Fishkill at 8 a.m. and that was a 2.5-hour drive to get up there. Sometimes we don't have a lot of notice before a SWAT hit, so we need to be able to respond accordingly. I also work mass arrests, so I have been to the office at 4 or 5 a.m. waiting for these subjects to come in so I can fingerprint and DNA swab them and push them along so they can start their lovely day with us. So a lot of them are actually very friendly, which is quite shocking. But so yes, normally I'm in the office every day. With my particular unit, I do also get to serve legal process. So if you see me out in the street, no, you don't. I am not. But yes, so typically 9 to 5 in the office, writing a lot of reports. As Natalia said, it is a lot of paperwork. But there are those some times where I am out in the field assisting agents or even building up some of the leads that I've gotten for my background investigations. So.
Thank you so much, Sam. Marta, do you want to end our question off here? Week in the life and day in the life of you in this job.
So my job was very similar to Priscilla. So we're mostly in the office, mostly research, database checks. My job is sharing intelligence with a lot of intelligence agencies. So I do a lot of writing and again, research. So there's really much more to add than what Priscilla already said. And like I said, there's also my collateral duties ERT. So we are on call. So we do get those phone calls sometimes on a Sunday afternoon when you're about to watch football. So you do have to sometimes respond, but it's not as bad as most people think.
Thank you so much, Marta. Okay, we have maybe a little bit less than 10 minutes left, and I have 2 questions in mind that many of you are asking. One of them is, how do I become an FBI profiler? Which some of you may know, this is a career named in many TV shows, may not necessarily actually be a position in the FBI, but I'm wondering if maybe just 1 or 2 of you could talk a little bit more about where would folks who are interested in a profiling role go in their future career.
I could take that on. So there's no profiler position in the FBI. That is definitely a position that the media has glorified. We do have the behavioral analysis unit where it's comprised of mostly agents, mostly supervisory agents with at least 10 years experience as agents before they go to this specialized unit. And they also have a background in psychology and in profiling, because this is what they do. They go out to help the field in getting like character assessments on a particular subject or on a source that they're looking at, or a potential source to become, an FBI source. So highly, highly experienced and specialized unit. You can't apply to be a profiler. I can't be a profiler. I do not have that background or the, time in the Bureau. And I have a lot of time in the Bureau, but not nearly as much as what you need and what current agents that are in that particular unit have. Because yes, it's a very experienced, very specialized unit. They work with scientists, they work with psychologists. And it's down at Quantico. I do know that there's interns down there as well. So they do help out, with the agents and their cases. But yeah, you can't apply to be a profiler, and it's not even a position in the Bureau. So definitely that's a media thing.
Glass just shattered for so many students in our room.
Sorry.
Not the word. This is actually.
We get that question all the time. So don't worry. We get that question all the time. The media has failed us and TV has failed us in that.
Yes. Okay. I think that was a complete answer. So we're going to move on to another question that a lot of students asked in different ways. Students are wondering if previous experience would help maximize their chances of getting to the FBI. And students have mentioned, if I am former law enforcement, former military, if I go to law school and get my law degree or have practiced law a bit, if I get my master's degree before joining, master's and PhD, but before joining the FBI. First, do those things count as work experience when you're applying? And secondly, does it maximize or increase your chances of getting into the FBI? And anything else that you want to share about that?
So I'll chime in on that. It definitely helps. The more degrees you have, obviously, it's going to help you. I believe for the special agent, Natalia, correct me if I'm wrong, but you actually do need a certain amount of work experience. You can't apply for that right out of college. You actually need, I think, 2 or 3 years experience of actual working full-time experience to apply for the special agent. For the OST position, the IA position, we do take young people right out of college, but a lot of them do come with master's degrees, and we do have people with law degrees. So all of that definitely does put you up higher up the rank when it comes to ranking you among other applicants.
Thank you, Marta. So in general, it's an additional degree or an additional career before the FBI seems to increase your chances more than if you are just joining straight out of college.
Yes, absolutely. And as military people also, they do actually get ranking higher because you do have that status and you have the training. So you do, it definitely helps you along the way.
Thank you, Marta. Anyone else on the panel want to add to that?
Yeah, I can piggyback on Marta. So for the special agent position, you do need at least 2 years minimum, and I'm saying minimum, professional work experience before you can apply. And this work experience, you have to apply your degree. So if you have a forensic psychology degree, your career experience should be in that degree. So you have to apply your degree to your current work experience. So that's a minimum. It goes down to a year experience if you have a graduate degree. So if you have a JD, if you have a CPA, then you only need 1 year of professional work experience. So those are minimum qualifications. So obviously, if you only have the minimum, you're probably not going to be as competitive as the next person who has, 5 years of professional experience in their field.
Thank you so much, Natalia. Anybody else want to add on to that?
I do want to piggyback off Natalia because we just had an in-house, do you want to be an agent thing for people in my position, which is, I don't want to say the bottom, but we are the entry level. So of course, I'm not saying that anyone here is not qualified to be an agent, but you're probably not that qualified to be an agent, even though you think that. And I know that's hard to hear. It was hard for me to hear, but I know, there's no way that if Natalia and I were on the same thing that I would get it over her. Absolutely not. I just don't have enough experience. So as she said, the minimum is 2 years, but I would strive for even more because there are certain parts of the agent application where you are only able to do it a certain number of times before you are permanently disqualified from trying again. So I think one of them is like the, I don't want to say interview, but like the meet and greet. I think you can only do that a certain number of times. And then of course, Natalia, correct me if I'm wrong, but there are certain points where you need to have a wealth of knowledge and experience to speak to, so you can be up to par with the people that you're competing against, because you don't want to apply and then make it to a certain part of that application process that is only 2 times, and then you don't get it through that one time. So now you're only working with one more chance to become that special agent with us. So definitely maximize the experience while you have the time, because you're all still super young. I'm super young. We're like right there, guys. Like I'm not that old. So definitely take the time to, get another degree if you want. I would definitely say don't do something that you don't necessarily want to do just because you think it'll look good for us. So like, I was like, oh, should I go to law school? And then I'm like, I don't want to go to law school. So if you want to do it, please, absolutely do it. Live your best life. We would love to see it. But maximize your experience in the ways that you want to and what you're interested in. So then that first time around, you could be like, yep, I got this, 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 and this. And then hopefully we see you on this side. But that's my advice.
Thank you, Sam. I think we're going to move on to our last question. And there were so many questions that we didn't get to. I will reach out to the panelists to see if if one or more of them might have some time to sort of text answer the questions, and I can share that back to you. You will get the recording. And we'll be in touch for things that come up later. But as a last question for all of our panelists, what would you say is your sort of favorite part of the job, and maybe like one final piece of advice for all of these aspiring students who want to join the FBI? Maybe we'll start with Marta.
Oh man.
Oh, that's a hard one, right?
I mean, I like every part of my job, but I'm not gonna lie, I love to travel. So it's definitely my something that I look forward to all the time when we get to do assignments overseas. I got to go to the Virgin Islands on an island. That was nice. So definitely love that perk of the job. And I would probably say, like, one advice that I would have to people that are applying, we love people of computer science. That's a big one right now. So if you have a computer science degree, that's a good degree to have if you want a job in the FBI in the future. Doesn't mean change your degree if that's not what you want to do, but that is definitely one of the top positions that we're looking for.
Thank you, Marta. That's so funny because I have a ton of computer science students.
Oh, then you're set to go.
Yes. Okay, let's move on to Priscilla. Favorite part of the job, and then maybe one final piece of advice for students.
Okay. So my favorite part of the job, not to just sound like, oh my God, this is what we do all the time, but it's part of the job, is when we finally take a case down. It's the best part, because basically the people that you've been studying up on, their whole life background story, you finally get to, assist with their arrest. And normally those are long hours too, because you're here at the office at like 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, prepping. The agents are getting ready to, take the door down. And as the intel body, you're here, so they're always keeping in contact with you, but finally bringing them in, seeing them, the people that you've been watching and studying for so many years, finally in your eyes, and you get to see them, and then everything comes to full circle. Finally, from there, you make it to trial, and everything is over, but then you start off on a new case. So that's one of the fun parts, best parts. It's like the culmination of everything happening to the end, then finally starting off on another spin-off case, which makes it even more interesting because it's just like, okay, we can do something else with it. And another part about advice. If you know a language, that's fantastic. That is important because languages, you know, criminals come in all age, sex, gender, it doesn't matter. But languages is one of the things that if you have a language and you're fluent and you know how to read it and write it, that is going to take you very far. So definitely take that, put it in your back pocket, but also utilize it because it's very effective. And just, you know, be open, have an open mind, be successful. Don't let anything deter you from what you want to do, and just continue on with what you know your future views are and opinions of what you want to do for your life, because the bureau is going to help you get to where you want to be. And of course, like Marta said, the traveling part, we can do TDYs, we can go anywhere in the world. It's one of the best parts of the job. So I can't even say anything else but that.
Thank you, Priscilla. Yeah, so for all of our bilingual, multilingual students who sometimes you might feel sort of shying away because of the languages, you have a gift, is what Priscilla is saying. You have a gift, capitalize on that, and use that to your advantage. Natalia.
My favorite part of the job, and I've mentioned this before, every day is different. You don't know what you're going to go into when you go into the office every day. And that's the exciting part. Yeah, it could be a boring day. Maybe you're on the computer, but then tomorrow is going to be much different. So I think that's my favorite part, because I never know what I'm going to be doing that day. If I get a call, if something happens, or, you know, if we recover a victim, or, I mean, it's very rewarding no matter what you do. My advice would be, just like Sam said, you guys are young, you have time, wait. Wait to do that experience, wait to do your, do your time, do your professional experience. If you get a master's, absolutely. I had 10 years of professional work experience and a master's degree before I applied to be a special agent. And I mean, that was typical. You know, we don't see that. Yes, we had younger people. The average age to go to Quantico is 31. So you definitely have time. So do well, you know, get all those extracurriculars, learn the language. If you have, you know, if you don't have one, if you have one, perfect it. You know, take language tests if you want. You know, we do tests for languages here, but if you have that background, if you can take like a State Department test in your language and you have that in your resume, that's huge. Yeah, so just do anything, do everything, get into everything, volunteer, round out your resume, and you'll be good to go.
Thank you, Natalia. So we started this event with Sam. We're going to end this event with Sam. So Sam, take it away with your favorite part of the job and one piece of advice that you have for students.
Absolutely. So favorite part of the job is being the missing piece to find the missing piece. So we all come in with different specialties, with different skill sets. And I love coming to work every day and my supervisor saying, hey, we have this request that just came in from headquarters or from this criminal squad. And I know that you're interested in this and you're able to do this. So can you do this? Absolutely. And then having that moment where you're looking at something and you're like, huh, got it. Gotcha. Like, and then it's just that feeling of, I can do this and I will continue to do this. And it's just the best feeling. And then of course, all of the opportunities that the Bureau offers. I was able to work with headquarters, only being in the Bureau 2 years. And I was the youngest one there. And I was like, whew, suits every day. And it was great because I got to work with our folks overseas, as well as folks at Washington, D.C. And it was just such an eye-opening experience. And I hate to sound corny, but when I walked into headquarters, I teared up a little bit, which was quite embarrassing because there were plenty of agents around. But I like fell in love with the Bureau. So all the opportunities that I've been allotted so far have just been incredible. And like when I was at John Jay, I would not have guessed that I would be talking to John Jay students from the position that I'm at right now. And then a piece of advice, I actually have two, but I'll make it really quick. So the first one is volunteer for everything, even if it's a job that no one wants to do, because eventually with you doing that, you will become that person that everyone's like, oh, okay, Nancy will do that. Nancy's great at this. She is our go-to person. And you want to be the go-to person, because that'll help you climb ranks on top of your work ethic, on top of your personable skills. So be that person. And then I think Nancy has heard me say this piece of advice a lot because I was at the Women in Leadership conference with her years ago. Let your setback be a setup for your comeback. If you don't get it the first time, you can absolutely be upset. Absolutely. But pick yourself up and keep going, because what you learn from that one setback is definitely going to make you stronger. And you are all so strong. You are all bloodhounds. So you got it in you. And you have Nancy as just the perfect leader. So just get all of that inside of you and let it shine, because you're all great. So
thank you, Sam. Can we give these amazing panelists the warmest love in chat, please? I mean, socks are knocked off. I think you all had a spectacular time, and we just could not be more grateful that you all came to join us on your incredibly busy lives. Thank you to the students for making time, for coming out here and doing something good for yourselves. We will see you hopefully in other exploration of your future self events. They're kind of like this. They're going to be awesome. But otherwise, we will see you around.